or Tonstartssbandht. That's the first thing I want to ask. That name, where did that come from?
We were teenagers. My bandmate is my brother, so we grew up together. And when we were teenagers in Orlando, we were making album covers for other like kind of noise bands that we were in with our buddies, and we were doing a lot of collage work. And my brother Edwin, the drummer in Tonstartssbandht, produced this word out of a collage, and we both liked how the word looked. We thought it was cool looking.
It was like a couple words from a newspaper headline. I don't remember what the headline was, but I just glued it onto the CDR cardboard sleeve, and I was like, oh, this is a good one. If we ever have a band that's just us two, that should be what our band's called. And then a couple years later, we were doing stuff, and we're like, oh, I guess this is that band. Tonstartssbandht or Tonstartssbandht, it doesn't really matter. People say both.
Okay. What's been the most off pronunciation that you've heard? One that just simply was not correct.
It sounds petty for us to say that's not correct with a word that means nothing that we made up.
Totally.
But that's a great question.
I think it's more the spellings.
The spellings are funniest.
Okay.
People get
and
pretty
also-
close in person, and we all have different vowels from what part of the country you're from or what country you're from. Like, so it's like hard to nitpick pronunciation, but spelling is like we've seen some wild ones. Like they just look like a train wreck.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's not. Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's a weird word.
we get wild ones even in Canada or like the UK, like people who first language is English, and then overseas, all bets are off. You'll see crazy stuff. But maybe in those instances, I feel like maybe people are doing a bit more copy paste because they're like, I don't know what this word is.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, because I remember another staff member showed me your stuff. They go, oh, check out this band, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, how do you say that? Can you? And they're like, and he gave it a shot. I think he got it correct, but I was like, that's an interesting name. So, and you both are brothers, correct? Yes. Yeah. And so where are you originally from?
From Orlando, Florida.
From Orlando, Florida. What was it like growing up there?
Very sunny.
Sunny, humid, fun.
Sunny,
Cool.
humid, and fun?
Yeah,
Fun and cool?
I like Orlando. I feel like I would describe it to people who maybe haven't been or spent a lot of time there, especially people who haven't been outside like the theme parks. It's like a lot of other like rapidly grown Sunbelt cities from like the mid to late 20th century. It's very sprawly, pretty suburban, most of it at least. There's a historic downtown core. It gets a rap for maybe being a bit soulless, I think, because it was developed so recently.
Okay.
But it's an enormous town with thousands, millions of beautiful people in the metropolitan area.
Yeah, any
doing
core
cool stuff.
childhood memories you have from the area, things that are just you associate with Florida?
I think we sing about it in one of our songs because this just sounds familiar to me, but just playing outside all the time because it's just, it's never cold. So
Yeah.
I think one of our songs we have like a lyric that's like, I used to live outside because it was just like, you felt like your whole childhood was just outside all the time.
That's awesome. That's the opposite of when I'm growing up here. You have to pick and choose.
No shade.
But
just,
still, you'll go outside in like the winter, so that's always a fun memory for me. Is just being outside,
and that's something we didn't
submerging
learn.
my body in the snow.
Yeah, we didn't learn that until we moved up north, which we both have done, and it's plenty of things to do outside when it's
Right.
cold.
Cool. I want to talk more about just like your musical process as a band. So I read that kind of music writing or songwriting is kind of shared, but I want to know more like personally what that process looks like for the both of you. Do you ever write in the same room? What's a Tonstartssbandht song like when it's created? Like how do you write it?
I feel like it's changed in kind of over the years. We've been doing this now for 15 years together. When it first started, we were writing and recording and performing mostly on like vocal loopers, and I'd use like an SP404 sampler to make a loop like as a backing track, and we
Right.
do karaoke essentially over it. And those are things that you can very easily do by yourself in your room. So Ed was in New York, I was in Montreal. Excuse me. And we would just basically, at first it seemed like we were writing and recording a demo by ourselves, emailing it to the other guy, and being like, "This is a new Tonstartssbandht song."
Yeah.
And then we'd do like the garage band era version of like mail back and forth, just email each other projects and add stuff, add harmonies, or add a second part to the song. And then our songwriting and our live sets became more guitar drum centric, probably around 10 years ago or so. the writing would be, I'd say, equal parts listening back to hours of jamming, just getting it together in the studio and messing around. And then gradually, I'd say for the most recent album, Petunia, Andy was more or less writing like songs and recording the demo of just my voice and guitar to send to Edwin and sort of get the sign off from him. He'd just be like, "This is dope. Let's work on it." And then when it came time to actually record the album, we spent a few weeks arranging the songs, which, in my opinion, kind of just consisted of you basically writing your drum parts and both of us locking in like that,
Yeah.
And then I guess I wrote most of the lyrics for Petunia, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might sometimes run stuff by me, or I might be like, this
You
could
had
work better.
Very
but
key, critiques that I think were very helpful.
I'd
and
call
then-
it a 5% credit,
For sure. I mean, as far as the lawyers are concerned, 50-50 all the way. He's my boy. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's changed over time. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to ask more about just your bond now. How has that grown as brothers with you two now making music over these years?
I think it's been
We messed it up and made it really good because now we have so many shared years under our belt experiencing like whatever life in the world. It's going to be hard to untangle now.
yeah. Wait, what do you mean we messed it up?
It was a joke. I was being facetious.
Oh, good.
Vocab word of the day is facetious.
It's an old school one.
Yeah, I mean, we're in our mid-30s now. We started doing this band when I was 18 and Ed was 20. And, those are... And we've known each other our whole lives, obviously, because we're brothers. But, like, to have, like, a creative endeavor and, like, a project that we pour a lot of time and energy and, blood, sweat, and tears into over the years of, like, that key demographic, 18 to 35-year-old men, we've gone through a lot,
Right.
Become like independent adults, gone through relationships, had crazy experiences, watched the world change. We've done it all very close together because we're constantly working on.
We have the same job.
Yeah, we have the same job.
We work for the same company, Tonstartssbandht Inc.
Yeah.
Incorporated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we're very close necessarily because we have the band, but it certainly helps,
Of course.
in both ways. The band, I think, benefits from us being close and getting along, and then our relationship. I mean, who knows? If we were in different places, we have different things. If we weren't doing this band together, would we be as close? I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'm sure we'd be very close, but not to the extent that you are when you are on the road with someone for 5 weeks at a time.
Yeah. It's like we're still sharing a bedroom, essentially.
Yeah, that's true. This month.
Yeah.
Yeah, to dig into that, touring together, what do you think is your craziest shared experience on the road? Or things that it wasn't normal, you weren't expecting it, just hit you out of the blue?
There's so many. I mean, we've been touring since 2007 or 6. There's always the interesting experiences crossing borders. There's missing flights or missing connections. There's just the shows themselves.
I think of one thing that kind of blew my mind, and I'm to this day continuously grateful for, is the unexpected generosity of strangers when you're on the road. And I got to come up experiencing that with my brother, both of us witnessing strangers being like, "Hey, we're putting a show for you tonight in our town that you've never been to. You're staying with us. We're going to feed you, and we want to hang out and talk about your band."
Wow.
That was, yeah. I mean, it still blows my mind. It's still pretty crazy. It's something that I never want to take for granted. I would be happy to take for granted the fact that we will some days miss flights, or have trouble at the border, or that gear won't work, or that there'll be like vomit all over the floor of the bar or something. But it's, yeah.
Hospitality.
Just people being compassionate and kind to each other. People you've never met before. That's always pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. I don't think a lot of people kind of get to experience that or understand as much as like touring artists do. Just like, hey, a lot of people are just excited to hear from you and hear about your stories. And there's a little bit of faith in humanity with that.
Yeah, man, it's a privilege, straight up.
Straight up. Another question I had just about your touring life is, out of all the places that you've been to, let's just narrow it down to this year. What has been your favorite city to play in as of this year?
This year we toured U.S., part of Canada, Europe, and we did Mexico City. Mexico City was awesome. I'd never been. But but it was a festival, so it wasn't sort of like a normal show. Europe is a different beast than the States or Canada.
Dude,
How so?
Future Yard in Birkenhead.
That was a great show. Yeah.
There's the community just across the Mersey from Liverpool. It's called Birkenhead in the UK. And there's this venue there called Future Yard. And, I mean, they check all the boxes for just being super open, compassionate, lovely people to host you. But from the way it was conveyed to me by the people there, Birkenhead is like a lot more economically depressed than Liverpool across the Mersey. It has a reputation for being, down and hard and like dangerous or whatever. And Future Yard is this. It's funded partially by like council funding, and they just have all these like workshops. So like they run the venue well, but they also teach kids from the community there to like how to run sound. So we rolled up, and there were like 10 like kids.
Maybe half a dozen.
But they were like loading gear, running lines. The front of house guy who was working there, who was phenomenal. He was like showing them how the lines are being run, all this stuff, and no one told us anything. We were just like, okay, this is how I guess they have like a really young staff here. That's cool. Everyone's really sweet. And after the show, they were like, yeah, we're just teaching kids, like teaching them life skills, and then teaching them how to run shows, do sound, that sort of thing. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, and good venue. They have a big outdoor stage as well as indoor. It's like an old factory or something, and
yeah, it was a good time. If any American bands are going to the UK, highly recommend playing Future Yard in Birkenhead.
Definitely.
Cool. Now, time for the heavy-hitting journalistic questions. I've been thinking about this one like all day, like very intensely. Who would win in a fight? 100 chickens or 1 lion? And the chickens are real mad.
I would love for the chickens to win, but I can't see it.
You gotta root for the underdog sometimes.
Can't see it happening.
Yeah, but is 1 lion being attacked by 100 chickens not the underdog?
I don't know. That's for you to decide.
Who's starting the fight?
This is the real conversation.
Who's starting the fight?
They both just lock eyes and like, I don't like the cut of your jib.
Boy, I didn't take any philosophy classes in university. I'm not equipped to
I took
answer
just
this.
one, and none of this came from that class.
I can tell.
Dang, 100 chickens is so many.
It's a lot.
Can I parlay? Are we betting on this?
If they
Oh no,
scratch-
this is an
We're
ethical
just
question.
talking.
If
Yeah,
they
it's just- we're
scratch
just
his
talking.
eyes out, he's done.
Yeah.
They
What do you
scratch-
though?
I mean, if they scratch his eyes out, they'll tire him out by just poking his back all day, and he's like, "Where are you?"
I guess it also depends too.
And then they'll do something to him while he's asleep.
I mean, we don't have to load until 4 p.m. We got time. How big are the chickens? How old is the lion?
Lion is in its prime, and chickens are
In their prime?
Young bucks.
also in their prime.
Young bucks. Boy. Shoot. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this thing. I'm sure there are experts out there who could answer this better than I can. I'm going to guess, just for the sake of being interesting, and maybe, dare I say, a little contrarian, I'm going to say 100 chickens. Ed, what do you think?
My heart tells me that the lion would win, but I am rooting for the chickens.
Okay.
I also hope it's just not to the death, and that they all just get scarred up.
No, they hug and kiss after.
This is the animal kingdom. They always hug and kiss.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. The lion's going to win then.
Awesome. And so I want to talk about musical journey a little bit more. So how did you both get into music? Or
Well,
did you come from a musical family? Was it always kind of encouraged?
our dad is a musician, but it's weird to think why. It's just like, I can't remember not listening to music and loving it and wanting to do it as soon as I could. I remember like getting older and just being like, okay, now I'm 6, but I bet I could probably start taking instrument lessons soon. And then it was like, I think at 7, took piano for 2 years. I'm really bad at piano, but that was the first thing I took.
Yeah, our dad moved down to Orlando in the early 70s from Wisconsin with all the theme parks opening up and got gigs doing live entertainment at the theme parks. And then, for a few decades he did like live entertainment at like the parks or the resorts or bars in Orlando and that kind of thing. The whole like 10,000 hours like Beatles thing where he's just playing every single night for hours and hours doing different sets. Knows every pop song probably released between like 1950 to 1990
Yeah.
on the guitar for requests and stuff like that. He would take us. I can remember going with Dad to like a Roadkill Cafe or something.
Yeah.
It's funny when we started touring, and I would begin spending a lot of time in bars, walking into a bar and smelling like stale beer and cigarettes.
Yep.
like gives me a childhood memory feeling because it's
Yeah.
like I'm hanging out with daddy, like or like mom's working late or something, so dad takes us to the bar for like an hour before someone comes to take us home or something. Also, crazy to imagine that there were bars in Orlando in the 90s where, I mean, I'm sure it happens, but just like friggin' 6-year-old and an 8-year-old hang out at the bar like doing coloring books, and I can smell liquor, you know?
Yeah, that's
Um,
what they sell.
Well, that's a
Yeah,
really cool experience.
totally. But
It's
yeah,
unique.
I recall when I recall maybe getting into like, you know, the Beatles or the Beach Boys when we were in grade school. And that's the first time I think I can remember my imagination, like my fantasy brain, my like I'm a cowboy or I'm a bus driver, being like I'm like a rock star. That's something that I want to do. That could be fun. It looks cool. I like the way like the way the music makes me feel, like the way the image of these bands playing together all like in harmony
Yeah.
with each other. Like I think that's exciting and fun. That's something that I want to aspire to. But I still was like, you know, I
No,
didn't.
I agree.
Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah.
but it never. I'm grateful that the path that we took was so informed by the time we became teenagers by like us becoming interested in like the American avant-garde movement and that sort of thing, and realizing that what was more attainable and more rewarding in an immediate and like real sense was like participating in this like experimental noise community in Central Florida, and that being so opposite from move to move to LA and get signed or something and play like a showcase to like become a rock star, quote unquote. There was something just so immediate and freeing about being able to go to like Uncle Lou's in Orlando, walk down, book the show for the next day, and then play with 4 bands made up of 10 of your friends, and do that every week, and then host other bands coming down to Miami and Orlando and that kind of stuff. And realizing that was the more sustainable and rewarding way, I think, to like pursue music as a hobby, much less an occupation or something,
Well, yeah, I mean, you never thought about it as an occupation. It was just like the funnest thing you could do.
Something you love.
Yeah. Once you begin to have any understanding of money whatsoever, at least for me, that was when it stopped being an idea for an occupation. I can say there was definitely a brief period of time when I was like single digit age where I was like, oh, I know I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm going to be a rock star. I'll make money that way. And then by the time you maybe mow lawns and get paid a little bit of cash by your neighbor, you're like, oh, this isn't going to work out. That's cool. Well, at least I enjoy doing it for fun,
Right. And so you all are in this band together, but I know that you've played as a touring guitar for Mac DeMarco. And I don't know, Edwin, if you've played in any other groups, but yeah, I want to ask, what other groups have you played a part in over the years?
I was in Mac's touring band for like 5.5 years, 2014, 2020. I also played bass in Walter TV, which is a couple of the other guys from Mac's band way back in the day. I did like a tour on bass for them. I used to play in a band in Montreal called Clinton Machine, and Black Feelings. Just like slightly older guys in Montreal who we like very much looked up to, who were like wonderful influences on us as like, I don't know. When I was like 20 and those guys were probably, at the time I thought they were grown-ups. They were probably like 25 or something at most. But yeah, getting the opportunity to play in those bands and not have to write music, just someone trusting me to play their music, I think was really, that was a new experience for me, because I was always working on music with my brother or myself, or like very democratically with like my noise improv band in high school. It's like, I'm going to play what I want to play in the band or whatever. But yeah, playing
It's a different environment to have a role to fill.
Totally. And trying to please the person whose music you're playing, especially if you like playing in their band and you like them as a person,
Of course.
I'm kind of spoiled. I haven't done as much of that as Andy, so I just get to do whatever I want whenever I hit the drums. But I have filled in on drums for Walter TV when Joe was on tour with Andy and Mac a couple tours, and I've played drums a couple shows with PC Worship, who we used to live with in New York.
Oh, yeah. Whoa.
Those were fun. I mean, that was just like do whatever.
And Edwin also, we'd be remiss not to point out, Edwin has a well-regarded and wonderful solo project called Eola.
I do. Yeah, it's just me singing, basically. And me and Andy had a cover band called High Rise 2 with our friend Jesse, and because we liked the band High Rise, so we're just gonna straight up cover their songs. So we did that.
Yeah.
There's probably more. Just can't remember.
Back when we were like cranking out tapes on a tape label, you know, Super Bud, Blade Stoner, all those like side project stuff where you'd be like, I jammed with Sean this weekend. We're putting out an album, you know. But less so as, you know, we've devoted more of our time and energy to not starving to death and playing in Tonstartssbandht.
It's always the goal.
Yeah.
What are current musical inspirations for the two of you?
Right now we're trying to train our algorithm on YouTube Music. It's been like 3 weeks in the car and it's learning, but it's pretty slow.
Yeah.
That's sort of my focus these days is hitting like on certain things and hitting down on other things.
For me, it's like trying to remember music that I like when I'm driving. But because I'm driving, my eyes are on the road and I can't think straight. So just letting Ed put on the ball game, pretty much.
Well, it's that, or it's just like we have the 3-disc Quine Tapes CD box set, so
Yeah.
we'll put that on all the time. It's just like
It's a good
it
standby.
doesn't matter what version of Sister Ray it is. If it's between 20 and 40 minutes, I'll listen to it
Yeah.
pretty much on loop.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like something I remember I've experienced before in my life and that I've spoken with other friends about, but I feel like in the last couple years, I have sort of dipped in my listening for and seeking out new music. Has nothing to do with the amount of good music being made. It's just a personal thing. I think it has to do
You know
with.
what you like.
Oh, it's not even that I know what I like, because I'll still occasionally hear something that's of a style that I don't ever really seek out or have much experience with, and I'll be like, oh, that's beautiful. But there's something about, I don't know, maybe I'm just going through a phase. I hope it's just a phase. I think it has to do with like a little bit of mental health, emotional health sort of thing. And, you know, I think right now I'm just in a bit of a slump in terms of like being jazzed and seeking out and putting energy into listening to music a lot.
It's one thing to actively scour, and it's another thing to let whatever may come your way come your way. And,
Totally.
I think it's okay to waffle between the two, or even another option.
Yeah.
It's not, you're obviously still a music lover.
I
You're
think-
a musician.
I think there's big things coming up for me soon. I'm gonna get into some music. I'm gonna get into music soon. I
For
think.
me, it's about time. When I have time and I can focus, I'll do my scouring, and then you kind of just maybe you're on the road, or maybe you have real life stuff you have to do. You
yeah.
kind of can't do it for a month or two, and you just listen to what you found. I mean, there's still tons of things I have to listen to that I've got on my computer,
There's so much music. It's
or
crazy.
listen to a second time. You know?
Yeah.
To hit you with a hypothetical. Let's say Tonstartssbandht. You're like, okay, we need a new genre. We need to spice things up. Where are you going? What kind of genre would you play right now if you could? Just
So,
rebrand.
It's
completely.
funny. My brain jumps to like micro genres that are so at the end of the day stylistically similar to what we already play. I'd be like, well, yeah, I'm gonna do like stoner metal, man, like duh, or like friggin' southern rock, dude. Like we don't play that right now, but someone who doesn't really like or have much of an experience with either the music that we play and stoner metal or southern rock could listen to the music we're playing right now and be like, that is stoner metal or southern rock, you know.
So we're not expecting a hyperpop Tonstartssbandht album.
I don't know what hyperpop is.
It's like when it's fast and high.
Like Chipmunks?
No,
Yeah, like Jim.
I mean
That's
Not
not
quite,
a
not
knock, by
quite.
the way. I
No,
don't
no,
mean
no,
like,
no,
oh,
no.
I don't know what that is. Just like I've heard the word, but I couldn't tell you what it sounds like.
We'll listen to some after.
Yeah, I would love to.
We'll listen to
Please.
some after.
Yeah. I need somebody to hold my hand straight up.
I got it. Actually, our engineer. I will love to do that more than anything else. I bet he's smiling right now.
Ed, what do you think? What kind of style would just be like a fun genre album to do?
well, I like to drum, so like funk or soul probably.
And I would love that too, but it's like, it's funny. I feel like I said before, if you and I made a funk or a soul album, it might still sound sort of like Tonstartssbandht.
So you want me to pick an answer that isn't my real answer?
No. No. Yes, I need you to lie to me. No, I'm just thinking like, can you think of like a genre that is like far outside the norm that you would be at least maybe curious for us to try out as an exercise, you know?
I would love to hear you guys play bossa nova.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
That'd be really fun.
That could be interesting, even with like your sound now.
We've been on our list of like things to cover. We've had Aguas de Marco for like 10 years, I think. We've never done it. We got to do it.
We've done it in the studio.
Did we?
Yeah.
Did we do it in Portuguese or English?
Dude, Neither of us know Portuguese.
Doesn't mean you can't fake it.
Fake
try.
it. Yeah. Yeah. I hope we didn't hit record on that one.
I want to hear it now, so I hope we did.
Yeah, we could try some bossa nova for you.
Cool.
You want us to play it right now?
Uh-huh.
No,
No,
that wasn't what he
No,
asked.
no.
Don't dig a hole.
Anyways, as we're wrapping up here, would you remind us again of any shows you have coming up?
Tonight at Turf Club in St. Paul, I believe doors are at 7. I think Miradores del Sol is a support act, and they're on at 8, and we play at 9.
Cool. And then where are you heading next?
Well, if you're from down by Lake Michigan, we'll be playing in Chicago tomorrow evening, Thursday, September 15th, at Sleeping Village with Charlie Reed.
And say you live in far, far South Chicagoland, you could even go the next night after that to Tolono, Illinois, just south of Champaign. We're playing at Loose Cobra.
Yeah, that'll be on Friday, September 16th. It'll be a
Indeed.
fun one.
Cool.
Or if you live in Louisville, Kentucky, on Saturday, September 17th, we'll be playing at Zanzibar. Or if you live in Lexington, Kentucky, on Sunday, September 18th, we'll be playing at The Burl.
We could keep going.
And then on Monday, September 18th, we'll be playing The Earl in Atlanta. I'm not looking at my phone either.
No, you're going straight off the dome.
This is cool.
I'm extremely impressed.
On Tuesday,
I will have to cut you off at some point.
we only have a few more dates. Let me finish them, please.
Okay, yeah.
Athens, The Earl,
On the 20th,
on the 20th. Thank you. 21st, September 21st, Wednesday.
Savannah at Lodge of Sorrows, and on Friday,
Oh, wait,
September 20th,
Athens is the world famous, right? That's what I said.
Yeah.
Savannah is Lodge of Sorrows. And then, final show of this leg,
September 23rd, Sarbez, St. Augustine, Florida, part of the Sing Out Loud Festival.
chilling on the beach.
Healthy Showcase at
Wow.
Sarbez Bar.
So if you live in any of those cities or within a reasonable drive, come hang out with us.
Come on down.
Come on down.
Great. This has been Tonstartssbandht. This is Radio K, Real College Radio.